Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hey, peoples.
Welcome to Star Wars Rebels Revisited, the Labor Daber extraordinaire episode.
Dabber, dabber.
Hope everyone is enjoying their long Labor Day weekend. We are so this is not coming to you live. This is coming to you via hologram pre-recorded. We have had such an amazing Andor August and then some. And we're almost doing like a little wrap up in some ways, getting ready for the Andor premiere in a few weeks. This is a ranking list, not a ranking list, but more of like a favorite moments list
Yeah,
of building the rebellion over the course of Star Wars Rebels.
which is really, really important because you have a huge cast of characters helping these small time rebels become big time part of the rebellion.
Exactly. When the show first starts, it's just these guys plus Hera. I don't know why he's not on the shirt. I still don't get it.
Still don't get it.
It's weird.
The only thing stopping me from buying that shirt.
Yeah, once I looked at it closely again, I was because there isn't a lot of Rebels merch out there. I was like, where the
Yeah,
hell is Hera? So it was one of those moments where like you look at it quickly and it's like, oh, there's the ghost, and then it's missing someone. But yeah, the team starts with Hera, Kanan, Sabine, Zeb, Chopper. They add Ezra, and that's your team. And then by the time we get to season 4 and we're actually liberating Lothal, we've met Mon Mothma, Jando Donna, Gold Leader, Wedge Antilles, like Bail Organa's involved, Ahsoka, like major players from throughout
huge.
stories. We meet Princess Leia in an episode, and we're building what we know as the rebellion. We spend time on Yavin. We hear the words Dantooine. We see like the rebel. We meet Saw Gerrera. We see like the connectivity to Rogue One in a big way, and of course, there's a big connectivity to Andor, which is why we've got this whole thematic month happening across the VCN, which is very cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about our favorite moments across these 4 seasons. By the way, it took a lot of rewatching to put this list together.
Yeah.
In some ways, the big moments like write themselves, and then other ways it's like, oh, I'm missing stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like these rewatches have been helping us kind
Yeah,
of flesh those out a little more. It's like, oh, I forgot about that moment. Oh, this would
same.
be really important to put on the list. So that has been tremendously helpful.
Yeah, that
So,
came to me just the number 11 on here was specifically because of the episodes we just watched last week. I hope everyone enjoyed The Occupation and Kindred. I think
yeah,
those are great episodes that indicate just how close we are to Rogue One and A New Hope, and what that these early days of the rebellion is like. It's going to be fun to see that play out in Andor as well.
yeah, absolutely. And you also get to see the future of the rebellion, plus the end of the series for the Ghost Crew. Like,
Yeah,
where are they going to go now? So
yeah.
it kind of is everything leading up to that.
Yeah, it's they stick the landing, as I said. Like their journey is complete. It feels earned. I think they give everyone a very dignified coda. I think that little like 3 minute stinger at the end that sort of explains what happened to everyone. Those things could always be a little bit cheesy. I think
Yeah,
they did it really well, and
they
Sabine's narration is
did.
terrific.
Hmm.
Um, I think at some point when we do the finale coverage, like I can't not watch that and not get emotional. Like it happens every time. I was like, I lived through this with them. Like I really felt like I was a part of it, because being a
Yeah,
licensee and for drawing the cards, you're part of the licensee crew. You're making product. You're
yeah.
heavily invested in the characters and everything else. When you work on it, it's a whole other thing.
Right. And it was, it got to the point where I was a huge fan of the show and it was still heavy and heartbreaking. Like it just shook me. But even creating the product and creating these cards for collectors and for fans, it's still like rewatching and seeing those moments and just seeing the utter like destroyed look on Hera's face when that gas tank goes up.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just, anyway.
There's a heartbreaking moments list that we could make. I mean, there's one for Rebels, but there's one for like the larger Star Wars universe. And I
Right.
still think the death of Kanan is like a top 10 heartbreaking moment.
Absolutely.
Like whether you're talking Clone Wars, Rebels, original trilogy, new trilogy, sequel trilogy, like all the stuff, he makes it up there. Like that moment is just so hard to watch. Mm. Well,
Absolutely.
that's not the list we're going to count today. Though.
We're not doing this today.
We're going to do something
So
more positive. This is Andor related, building the rebellion throughout Star Wars Rebels, which they've been doing since episode 1, but we've picked some of our favorite moments and we think are heavy rewatch moments as well to get ready
Yeah.
for the countdown Andor. So Ashley, take us away with we're going to give you a numbering, but it's not necessarily in rank order.
Yeah.
It's
It's
similar. I
loose.
mean, yeah, we're saving some of the best to last though. So kick us off with number 12.
Okay. Number 12 is Ezra's message of hope. So in season 1, episode 13, Ezra is in his comm tower and he's taking a cue from his parents, getting his message out there through the broadcast tower on Lothal and saying that we can't back down because we're afraid. Stand up together because that's when we're the strongest. And Tarkin just does not want that message out there, and he sends some TIE fighters over,
Yeah.
blows up the comm tower. So
Yeah.
in a way, Ezra not only loses his message, not his message, but his way to broadcast to the rebellion. At first, he thinks of it as a defeat, but he loses his home that he's been in since he was 7 as an orphan, and everything that he knew about his family is just in that tower, and it's lost. So it's kind of
it's a sad
sad
moment.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a devastating moment, and
But
it's right before the finale too. Like it is setting up like
right.
Fire Across the Galaxy as the next episode.
Absolutely, but it gets the message out there. It's like, okay, they're like his parents. Ezra is wanting to be something more for the rebellion and like a voice in the dark.
Yeah.
For people who are being oppressed. And it's so cool to see him just kind of cast off the lost my parents kind of mopey vibe and just be like, all right, this is what I need to do. My parents fought for something.
Right.
I want to fight for something. And it's his way of banding the rebellion together. And as you'll see in future episodes, it's integral to a lot of important figures in the rebellion. And his message went further than he ever imagined.
Yeah, that's sort of the irony too of like the comm tower being blown up, is that the message got out right beforehand and it spreads far and wide and a lot of people hear it. Ezra becomes a really inspirational character and like a magnet for this collection of weirdos that form like the initial strain of the rebellion, specifically on Lothal. Man, it's a collective of just the craziest of the crazies, and of course it would take Ezra to pull it together. Like it takes that type of person. This is really a moment where it feels like he's matured. You know, we've gone through a whole season with him. We learned about his parents dying in Empire Day, and that they were members of the rebellion, and that's why they were disappeared and then eventually killed. And he does mope about it quite a bit and really internalizes all that pain. And there are times when he can act like a brat. But rightfully so. But then right toward the end of the season, he's like, I'm going to follow in their footsteps and do what they did and be a hero because they're not here. So I need to carry on their he has to finish what they started.
Right. And meeting Tebow changes that as well, because he realizes that his parents did something amazing and banding the galaxy together and the face of oppression, and it kind of gives him a purpose. Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's a great lesson for the whole series as well, like the purpose that he has and that everyone else has contributing to this, the thing that's larger than them, which is always what Star Wars is about. Like it's never about you, it's about the larger thing that you're serving, whether it's the Force, whether it's the Rebel Alliance, whatever cause you are a part of. It's that you're part of a larger ecosystem. That's sort of the core lesson of the Force, is that we're all connected. And the dark side doesn't seem to get that because Sith is all about individualism. So there's this really interesting like community versus individualism, and the removal of people's and when you create like a giant empire or something, it's the removal of your actual individual traits and forming to one homogenized look and feel, right? So stripping away that freedom and everything. It's so interesting. It's like it's a little bit heavy-handed, of course, but like it's so interesting and it's worthy of exploring in like a long form discussion, you know.
That's what we're here for.
Yes, exactly. And believe me, we go long.
We
I
go
don't think
long.
we've clocked in under 110 on any of our episodes recently, and we're always like, "Oh, we're gonna end on time today." There's a lot of side
It's a lot to
conversations.
discuss.
Yeah, and I will say the people in the comments are great too because they're playing along with us, which is really fun.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone has enjoyed their Labor Day and are now coming back, unwinding on your Monday night. It'll be a nice short
Yeah.
week ahead of you. Just listening to us ramble about our favorite moments throughout Rebels. I'll take us into the next one. And this is one that actually came during the rewatch. So because we've been doing all these rewatches, this one came to me as I was like, oh yeah, like we better not forget about this guy. So Kell, who we actually just saw in Kindred last week, I have him on here as a really important character that I don't want people to overlook. So I put on here saving Kell in season 1. So this goes all the way back to the beginning again, right where Ezra's message of hope was toward the end of season 1. Early in season 1, Ezra infiltrates one of the Imperial academies to break out a cadet named Kell, and he then appears in season 4 to help Ezra out of a jam in the episode we just watched, right when they arrive.
Yeah, he definitely pays it forward.
Yeah, so he's now part of the Rebel Alliance, and this goes to like the larger theme of connecting individually with people. So Ezra really helped this guy out, and created an individual connectivity with him. And then when Ezra and his team are in trouble on Lothal, Kell comes to the rescue and saves all of them and then connects them to Ryder Azadi. And then he's in like every episode leading up to the finale. So you can see like he's the same age as Ezra. He's also a kid going through all this stuff. And like he's stepping up like an adult in a time where like it must be incredibly scary to even be an adult in Star Wars. Never mind like a tween or a teenager where they are. I can't imagine what that must have been like.
Right, but it's inspiring because it's like, okay, here's a kid who was an Imperial cadet and could have gone either way. And he chose not to. He chose something bigger than himself. Mm-hmm. Not, as you said earlier, the individual versus the community. He chose the community, and he pays Ezra back for saving him and giving him that choice to get out of the Empire by saving him from the Empire.
Yeah.
So,
and this is going to be a theme as well. Defectors. So we see it with Wedge Antilles. We see it first with Sabine, actually. Within Rebels, the first person we know who's a defector from the Empire is Sabine. Obviously, Wedge first in production order. We know from the original trilogy, he used to be a pilot for the Empire. We know Kell, who escapes. We're going to see it from, we saw it in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Tell me her name again.
Tala.
What is wrong with me? I can never remember this lady's name.
It's okay.
But there's a slew of characters like that, and I hope that we see some of them in Andor. My suspicion is we can see from the scene they gave us that Andor can get in. Can he also help get people out? Is there a pipeline of people out? Because we know Bodhi is a defector as well. Like yes. Bodhi being a defector is actually like the triggering event of Rogue One. He's the one who alerts Saw Gerrera to the plans about the Death Star. Like it took a whistleblower. So I think that there's going to be a whole theme of like people finding their moral compass. It happens in Star Wars Rebels quite frequently.
Yep. And that's what I love about it. It's shows that people can be up to their necks in the dark side and the Imperial side of things, but they can also gain a conscience, and not everybody has to stay the same. People can change.
Yeah. We can see redemption. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going continue on our list. Number 10.
Number 10. Okay. Let's see. Sorry.
No worries. It's a Wedge Antilles.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yep.
Saving Wedge in the Antilles extraction.
Yes.
So Wedge is incredibly important, as you original trilogy fans know. Wedge is Luke's best friend. He kind of inspires Luke to dream of better things, like, hey, my friend's going off to be a pilot in the rebellion. That's cool. Like I want to be a pilot someday. I want to get off this rock. And he basically stood by Luke's side through all 3 battles in the original trilogy. So here we get to see him grow and what makes him involved in the rebellion, and how getting him out of an Imperial situation is integral to the future of the rebellion and the future of the Force,
Mhm.
really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, without Wedge, I don't know if Luke would have made it. He's
absolutely.
he's one of the best pilots. He's up there with Hera.
Hmm.
Um, by the time we get to OT, he's up there with Hera.
He was
The
trained by Hera, like he was part
Yes,
of her squadron, which is amazing to see because it's like, oh, he learned from the
yeah,
best of the best.
we're going to see that in some of those season 4 episodes that we will watch in the future. Next week is actually our Wedge Antilles watch along. So when you join us on Monday, September 12th, we will be doing the Antilles extraction, this exact episode, and we're going to follow that up with Double Agent Droid, which is a great Stephen Stanton AP5 episode, and probably what it's best known for, with him singing in space and whatnot.
Oh
But
my
it
God,
is
I
also
love that
like
episode so much.
it's amazing. And I think what people lose track of is that it's also like an amazing Wedge Antilles episode.
Yeah.
And because Wedge doesn't actually have a ton of screen time in the original trilogy. He's super important, and people forget sometimes he blew up the second Death Star. It's him and Lando and Chewie blow up the second Death Star. And
Yep.
like everyone's like, oh, Luke saved the day. And it's like he did. He absolutely did. He like killed the
Yeah.
Emperor, he saved Vader. He's like the linchpin for all of that. But like let's give Wedge the credit as well.
Absolutely.
He was in A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, leading. He was the Red Leader, like he was Red Squadron, and getting it done for the Rebel pilots. So seeing his origin story here in Rebels is fantastic. And frankly, like I'd be shocked if we don't see him in Andor. Like he's on my short list of like
Oh yeah.
people I expect to see.
I agree with you. I think there's no start to the rebellion without Wedge because I believe that the Ghost Crew and especially Hera kind of inspired him to just go above and beyond and do whatever it takes to make sure that the Empire does not succeed in their domination.
Yeah.
So
I
and
really hope we get to see him in Andor.
that'd be so cool. I'm
And
excited
as an
about that.
Imperial, it would be so. Like I'm, he would still be an Imperial at that time period. So I would love to see that. That'd be so cool.
But if he's an Imperial at that point, it's more than just him meeting Ezra. It's what made him have that change of heart to okay, the Imperial Academy is
Yeah,
not all like Sabine, it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's
exactly.
making me make some horrible, hard choices. This just feels wrong in my gut. I don't want anything to do with it. And it
Yeah,
we
I would like to
we
see a
could see.
triggering event that like
Yeah,
brings him there. Um,
I hope we
Probably
do.
seeing like another pilot die because the Empire treats him like he's disposable, something like that. I think we
Yeah,
could easily see that. I feel like something like that happened with Han, and it's why he was kicked out of the Navy or whatever it was. Not the Air
Mud
Force, but
troopers.
yeah. And then he ends up a mud trooper. Oof. Okay, I'm going to jump into our number 9 moment, and this is less of a moment and more of an experience in general. Landing on Yavin 4. So Yavin is so important, especially in A New Hope, as like the rebel base location, and it's where Princess Leia and Jando Donna are at the end of the movie. The Death Star ends up there. The Battle of Yavin is what many consider to be year 0 of the Star Wars franchise. Whenever we do the timeline, which is always crazy because we started with 4, 5, 6, and then it's 1, 2, 3, and then it's 7, 8, 9, and where does Mando fit? Year
Yeah,
0, moment 0 is Battle of Yavin. And so to be able to
BBY.
spend, yep, is that BBY, but like that's how we tell time is ABY and BBY, like, which is crazy that it's all centered around this planet that we spend so much time on in Star Wars Rebels. Like, how lucky are we that we got
Yeah,
all that screen time in Rebels with Yavin?
so huge. And again, it's centrally located for a reason. It's the be all and end all of the entire Star Wars universe
Yeah,
for a reason.
it feels like a nexus point. It really does.
It does.
And in the episodes we spend on Yavin, which is a large chunk of season 4, and we just watched a couple last week, we see characters like Mon Mothma who take up residency there essentially, and it seems like that's going to be their location for a while until they're found out in A New Hope. Jando Donna is also there, which is very cool because he's also in A New Hope. We see the Rebels cast there as well, the Ghost Crew. We see Wedge Antilles. People come and go from Yavin quite a bit, and it's a great location. Saw Gerrera has his big fight with Mon Mothma via hologram on Yavin.
Yeah, but he knows
Yeah.
just where to dial in, so
Oh
you can
yeah,
tell
he
he's been
he knows
there
the
at some
IP
point.
address. He's like, "Girl, I gotcha." And so like a
Hacking
lot goes
away.
down, and then it's also just gorgeously animated. Like it looks like the movie, but also has its own sort of unique Rebels look and feel. But it's just beautiful, the location.
Yeah, and you can tell it's a hub for bigger things, but
Yeah.
you also get to see those war rooms and those giant
The
screens with
green
all the
screens.
maps,
Yes.
and
Oh my God.
it's like you're back in watching the original trilogy, and it continues, and Rogue One,
Yeah.
it's just continuing, and it's
The,
honestly like
they
so
recreate that
cool.
stuff so well, especially those screens. If I could
Yeah.
have one sort of prop thing like in my apartment as like a piece, it's so not functional though, like that kind of screen or like a
No,
wall
it makes a
decor.
really cool
Yeah.
nightlight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there you go. Something like that would be really
Yeah,
fun. Um,
I
I,
would use that as such because
you
I'm a
should definitely
klutz.
take us through the next number on the list because this was one of yours that I had not thought about, but this is a good one.
Yes. Okay, saving Commander Sato's nephew, Matten. So, who is named after Lucasfilm's Matt Martin.
Matt Martin,
Um,
story guy, excellent.
story guy, really cool guy. Um, it's basically we see Mart in Iron Squadron, and he appears in 5 of the last episodes of the series to help liberate Lothal. So him and his crew of misfit pilots, they're on a ship. It's got no hyperdrive. It's a mess. Sato needs them to go and save his nephew, but his nephew doesn't really want to be saved. He's like, "Oh no, we're fine, we got it." And
Yeah, we got
he
this all under
learns,
control.
yeah, he learns he's got to rely on other people to get there, and it's okay to need help and
Yeah,
to ask for help, and it kind of helps not only make him and his crew a part of the rebellion, but it kind of mends the fences between him and his uncle because that's
yeah.
his only surviving relative,
Because his
and
parents were killed by the
his parents were
Empire.
killed by the
Yeah.
Empire, right?
Whose
And
hasn't, by the way? I mean, like, raise your hand if your parents
these guys
weren't
are
killed by the
terrible. They're
Empire.
just taking
Like,
everybody's parents
there's
away. Like,
a lot of orphans
stop
running
these
around. It's
fools.
not funny, but it's funny because it's like
Yeah.
everyone's got the same backstory. Like,
Yeah. Oh, did your parents die with the Empire? Yep.
yeah,
Let's just, yeah.
it's that or they work on the Death Star. Those are your two choices.
Ugh. So either way, they're dead
Yeah,
by the
yeah,
Empire.
it's bad stuff.
But
I
I thought
love
it was really cool.
yeah, I actually really love that backstory because that's exactly the type of character that should be part of this larger cause, but was very individualistic,
Yeah.
and had his little team, his little mini ghost.
His Lost
Like
Boys.
yeah, the 4 of them or however many there were.
Yeah.
It's also another one of those instances where when that episode aired, like people are like filler. You pull up the filler card, and it's like this was filler, and then you find out when we get to season 4, oh, he's back. Like he's Commander Sato's nephew for a reason. He wasn't just like a connectivity for the sake of connectivity. And he ends up in basically the whole liberation of Lothal. Like he's fighting in the final battle, like along with all the other collection of the Island of Misfit Toys that are leading behind Ezra, right? Like
Yeah.
they're all there with him. And it goes back to like how do you build a rebellion? It's one person at a time. You save one life, and then that person understands that there's something larger out there and joins the cause. And Mart and the rest of his crew, Matt Martin and everyone else, join the ranks of Ezra's rebellion, which is part of Mon Mothma's rebellion, and they freed Lothal. They did it. It
He
was
did
very
it.
impressive.
Yeah. It's just, again, there's no such thing as filler. Every character matters. Um, Even the background characters, like they never give her a name, but the lady that's always traveling around with Ryder, like
Yeah, yeah.
she's with
Forget
him
her.
no matter
Yeah.
what. And it's like, I want to know more about that lady. Like,
Yeah, I will say Star Wars is very good at giving character bios and names and like affiliations and ranks and alien species and all that stuff for like the most random of characters. Um, and you won't see it with other franchises. Like Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained, who I always reference on this channel because I love his channel. He had put up a thing and he's a Star Trek fan as well. And he had a picture up and it was like, this is a background character from Star Trek. And um, we know nothing about him. And it was like, there's no name, no rank, no nothing. No, it's because Star Trek knows when to stop. And I was like, yes, it's true. Like they do not care if you know what this person's name is, where they're from, or anything. Whereas Star Wars, like there will be a Tales of the Jedi episode about them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you've made it on screen for like 3 seconds.
oh yeah, like Commander
Yeah.
Zuvio, like the Sphinx cat looking commander that was supposed to be in The Force Awakens. Like they did a whole thing on him, and it's like, who? We have a
Yeah,
million action figures on the shelf. We can't get rid of this figure. But
I remember
yeah,
the Constable Zubio thing
Constable,
because
yeah.
like yeah, because we had trading cards with him on it, and I think we even got the actor who was in the suit to like sign as him if I'm remembering correctly. I'd have to double
Oh,
check, but like that happens, right? Like the
yeah,
scene he's in a minute. Everyone thought that minute was like guaranteed to happen, and you always need like a mix of action figures. Like you need A-listers, B-listers, and C-listers, like in your original assortment, and sometimes it's just
yeah,
a cool looking character. But like it did not he's like fully not in that movie, right? But he's in like some good stills and technically credited, but like
yeah.
you can see him in the background for a hot second because they did not need that scene. That I finally saw the scene and it was like not at all necessary and like actually sort of contradicts a little bit of what's actually happening, so it made sense to
Yeah,
cut it, you know.
yeah.
um but yeah, that these
But it's
background
a cool
characters,
little factoid.
yeah, those are
And
fun. I like the background characters and I like getting to know them more. And I think Rebels actually does a really good job at that. It's what we're saying about season 4. If you've been following since season 1 and you keep up with season 4 and you get to Lothal and you find this like conglomeration of like randos, it's people we've met before. Like no one is newly
yes.
introduced in season 4 except for Rook. Everyone else is a returning character of some sort.
But
So
yeah,
yeah,
Rook is in there for the Thrawn fans
yeah,
to kind of give that a little more backstory. But it's also to
yeah.
give
That
them,
is fan service. Yeah.
yeah, it's also to give the rebels someone who's a little more like wild and ruthless, like not anybody that they've dealt with. Like they've been
Yeah.
tracked via computer, but they've never been like sniff tracked like a
Oh, I
bloodhound
know.
before.
He's like, I can smell Assad. I was like, ew. I was like, oh, go away. I was like, I'm scared of him. I will say Rook is one of the more terrifying villains. I'd rather
Yeah.
face Price. And believe me, she's on my list of like no one that I want to face because she killed Kanan. She has no regard for any life around
She's
her.
like Frank Reynolds and Always Sunny, and I just stop blasting. That's
Oh my
her.
god, that's exactly her. Oh, that's all I'm gonna think of now is Danny DeVito.
Sorry.
He was all over Twitter just the other day because I
He
guess he
talked
has
about the
like a
couch scene,
well,
right?
yeah, well, so he's voicing a new show, like
Hmm.
he's in like with the daughter of the devil or something, and
Yeah.
I guess like he started live tweeting the show, but didn't tell anyone he was actually live tweeting anything, and so it just looked like these like unhinged tweets were going out into the universe.
Oh
So he's like
no.
quoting the show, but like it made like not so everyone check out Danny DeVito's Twitter if you want to like make yourself crazy. But I guess like he must have said like, oh, the show comes out, and then all of a sudden just starts like quoting and stuff, but like there's no hashtag to pull it together. He's not
Oh
referencing the
my
name of the
goodness.
show. So it just like this most random stuff. And like, so people are like, Danny DeVito having a stroke. What's happening here? But I think just the show premiered.
Yeah,
So
his I think his daughter Lucy is involved in the show too.
there it is.
And
It's like Lucy, Daughter of the Devil, which is a
yeah,
different show. There's
right.
there's an old show from Cartoon Network called Lucy, Daughter of the Devil, which is hilarious.
Oh,
And I
I
think
remember
this is
that
a
show.
similar premise where like
Yeah.
the daughter of Satan or something. So
Yeah,
yeah.
except it's actually Danny DeVito calling the
Yeah,
shots.
it's amazing. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we've lost the plot on this one again, kids. Even on I know. But look, we're making our way through the list.
We're getting
We're
there.
already at number 7. We're moving so
Ooh.
much faster than we expected we would be. So, my moment for number 7 on our list is another throwback to characters that we've seen in other places. Bail Organa and Gold Leader from Gold Squadron, John Dutch Vander. Escorting Mon Mothma to the Ghost. So not the rest of the stuff that happens in Secret Cargo because that's coming, but like that's within the episode Secret Cargo. We meet Dutch Vander, and like that should be the moment where it's like, oh wow, it's Vander, and then it turns out, oh no, it's Mon Mothma. So like, and then and she's there with Bale. The three of them are together in this moment, and they're
Yes.
entrusting our crew that we've come to know and love, the crew of the Ghost, to escort Mon Mothma to Dantooine, which is because she's escaping the Empire. She's become public enemy number 1. So seeing Gold Leader, who by the way they shoehorn into Rogue One using footage from A New Hope, which is super cool. Another Rogue One
So
thing,
cool. Love
very
that.
cool. Bail Organa is obviously in Rogue One. Uh, Mon Mothma obviously in Rogue One. I actually expect to see all 3 of them in Andor without a doubt.
But Dutch is so snarky and so like looks down his nose at the ghost crew like,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh, he's a
like
jerk in this episode. It
absolute
takes him a
jerk.
while to come around to the Ghost, and I think that makes sense because one of the themes is the infighting of the rebellion, like who's doing it right. He thinks
Yeah.
that the Ghost Crew is reckless,
Yeah.
doesn't follow protocol. They don't know military structure and strategy, and they have a mission in hand, and he won't give them information.
Right.
It's very Holdo versus Poe, where like the Ghost Crew is Poe and Gold Leader, and is Holdo. They're both right and they're both wrong.
Right.
So I love it. I love that. I love all that conflict in that episode. It's
There are
one of my
different ways to do
favorites.
different things, and
Yeah,
it's again, it goes back to like Mon Mothma and Saw. How much are you willing to get your hands dirty for the rebellion?
yeah,
And the Ghost Crew, they're scrappy. They go above and beyond. Aside from like sacrificing people, they will do whatever it takes
yeah.
to defeat the empire. Whereas, like as you said, Dutch is very strategy, military. That's very
Mhm.
important. So they're automatically at odds based on that. Like they're like the bratty, dirty kid brother
Oh
who,
yeah,
and
he's
it's
like
like, oh,
disgusted
too
by
cool.
them, which I
Yeah,
kind of love. I was like, oh, what a jerk. When we watched that, because I've probably seen Secret Cargo like 25 times, but
yeah,
I like literally forgot because it had been a little while that like Dutch was such a jerk, because I've seen him in so many other episodes and he's not that way by the
yeah.
time we get like deeper into season 4. But yeah, it is jarring to see. I was like, you're not that hero that we know.
And that's an
You know.
interesting point because again, you see him as the clean cut hero, gold leader, doing
Mhm.
good things for the empire. You don't see him at odds with anything else. You don't really like get into that part of his personality. So it's
Right.
a cool little window into like the real life of a rebel leader.
Yeah, and Rebels brings it to life for us. I think that's one of the nice things that animation has done for a lot of the live action characters. I
So
always
true.
reference Barriss Offee. That was just like a lady standing in the background in the prequels, right? She looked cool, cool character design on screen for 10 seconds, no speaking lines. And then you get to Clone Wars and she has a whole arc that's like critical to the plot. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, now there's a character. It's not just a costume. Like the live action version of Barriss Offee is someone in a costume. The animation version of Barriss Offee is a fully fleshed out character who's critical to the entirety of Star Wars. Like that's what animation
Absolutely.
can get you, or TV can get you, where you have long form programming. So I'm a big proponent I'm actually more of like a TV buff than a film buff, and I'm very much an animation buff. So like I'd rather watch a long form like 13 episode situation than one movie.
Right. Yeah. It's all about the character backstories and how deep they're
Yeah,
willing to get into that. So
I like the
I
world building. Yeah.
yeah, me too. I'm a sucker for that.
All right,
Uh,
we are at the
yeah.
halfway of our list. So I think you have a good one for number 6.
Number 6 is an awesome one. The Ghost Crew meets Leia Organa
Who's that?
and a
Who?
princess on Lothal. So we have Bail Organa, the leader of the rebellion, but also a senator in the Imperial Senate. Um, she's doing espionage work for her father, and it is up to the Ghost Crew to help her out. So, little fan servicey, yes,
Mhm.
but
A little bit, yeah.
also very integral to the future of Leia and the future of the rebellion. We see how far she's willing to go to, I don't want to say carry her father's work out through the rebellion. I want to say, like, just properly shake up the empire a little bit,
Mhm.
but doing it the
And it's her
best way that
mom's
she can.
work too, without her
Yeah,
knowing it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, Julie Dolan, can we talk about her and how awesome she sounds in this
I
as
know. She
Leia?
sounds so good.
Like, if we can't have obviously go back in time and have Carrie Fisher be Leia, this is really the next best thing. She does a phenomenal job as Leia,
Mhm.
and
You close
she
your eyes, the voice match is like
so
spot
good,
on.
so
Yeah.
spot on. But basically, she tricks the Imperials into getting 3 ships to the
Hmm.
was stolen from them and gets it into the hands of the rebels. But she does it in such a cool way, such a conniving, crafty way, and without being like blatantly like, "Yeah, we're taking these ships. I'm part of like my dad's in the Senate." Like
Yeah.
she doesn't pull that card, but she does kind of bully them a little bit, I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, she makes them all look like fools. I rewatched this episode pretty recently with my niece because I wanted to show her Leia as like a cartoon, and I forgot that like so Leia's the same age as Ezra. They're just a couple days apart in age, and there's a moment where it's like they look like they might have romantic tension for a hot second, but really it's just an understanding that they're both in this together.
Yeah.
So more than anything else, and her role in the episode was really to get these ships to the rebels from the Empire, because she's part of the Imperial Senate, so she's part of the Empire, like on paper anyway, but she's working behind the scenes just like Mon Mothma, like secretly trying to like work from within to dismantle the rebellion, right? And we get a little taste of that. And for someone who's a teenager who's probably been at this for a minute, but learning from the best, Bale, and of course everything that Padme had done beforehand, she really gets it done, and even goes so far as to like tell Ezra, "Oh, shoot me with your blaster on stunner to knock me out. That way, when I come to, like, they'll see that I was also attacked, so she doesn't get incriminated." So she's done this before. This was not her first rodeo, and she did it by herself. She went with like her Imperial escort at like these two useless Imperials, right? Which we can make a listicle of them, the useless Imperial officers, and like executes the whole plan basically herself, which is
Yeah.
incredible. So this girl got it done as like a 17-year-old, like taking on the Empire from within as a master spy. So I hope
I think she's
there's
14 in this one.
is she that young?
14 or 15. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like season
She's
2. She
Ezra
might be
age.
15. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. So she'd be a little young to end up in the Andor show, but she was in the Obi-Wan show without us knowing. That
But
same
that's something
actress
else. Yeah.
couldn't play the same, couldn't also be Leia in Andor because of the time difference, I think. But like
Right.
in theory, there could be a Leia in Andor. Like I didn't expect to see her at Obi-Wan, and there she
Yeah.
was. So I think it'd be cool if Leia were in Andor, but obviously we're gonna see Bale, we're gonna see Brea. Like I think I would like to see them and do fulcrumy things. Like that would be cool.
I think her time, and this is obviously it's loose enough in the timeline where we can be like, now that we've seen Kenobi, we can be like, oh, she learned some things from traveling with
Yeah,
Obi-Wan on how to be successful and carry out a mission.
yeah. I think that'd
Um,
be really fun.
but she
I would like to
learned
see
what
it.
to do and what not to do in that time at a very young age. So it kind of gives her the push that she needs to be more active in her parents' work.
Yeah, and she you can see she takes it seriously right at the end of the episodes
Hmm.
of Obi-Wan. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Number 5 on our list of building the rebellion throughout Star Wars Rebels. This is a big one. Callus defecting from the Empire to the Rebels. So we talk a lot about defection in this list alone, but like also in the episodes we've been watching, we've seen Wedge Antilles, Jai Kell, Sabine Wren. Like these are people who were Imperials who are now on the rebellion side. Callus was the big one for this series. So even though we've listed 3 already, like Callus was the one that really caught everyone by surprise. And it starts with the honorable ones, which we watched 2 weeks ago. Great episode. It's when Zeb and Callus are marooned on the moon of Geonosis, so close to Geonosis, but not quite there. And they have to like trust each other. And again, it comes down to individual connection. And when Callus gets back to the Imperial ship, when he finally gets rescued, no one even noticed he was gone. Whereas like Zeb was like greeted by his family and like they were all worried about him and they wanted to make sure he survived. Callus, on the other hand, like no one would have cared if he died. And he realized that he was disposable, and he saw the love and the connectivity that everyone on the rebel side had. And he also connected with Zeb. And again, like we don't know the extent of that relationship. Like that could be a whole other conversation for an episode of like, are they best friends? Are they actually a couple? Which was sort of
Yeah.
implied at the end of the series. I don't know. It's not like confirmed like LGBTQ relationship recognition there. I think a lot of people want to read it that way.
It's like
I don't
fan
know.
speculation. It's never been
Yeah.
concrete.
No,
And I don't even think it is in the art book
I
either.
don't think so either. And it's the kind of thing where I'm like, also for grasping at straws. It's the same thing. I joked about this on Resistance when I was, it's like the chicken and the pig. Thanks, guys. So like, enjoy your headcanon is my take on everything, by the way.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
I'm still under the suspicion that Barriss Offee is out there and will be the big bad of the Ahsoka series. And I've been also speculating that she was going to show up in Rebels and the final season of Clone Wars, and she was going to be in The Mandalorian. Like, I'm just going to keep getting disappointed. So everyone should enjoy their headcanons. But with that in mind, like whether Callus and Zeb are either like bromance or romance, the point of that is that one person makes a big difference and was able
Absolutely.
to like get Callus to understand what he was doing was wrong, being a part of the Empire, and like what he was serving was the wrong side of this conflict. And so then he becomes a fulcrum and then works from the inside as a spy to help the rebels. He eventually gets found out, and Thrawn like chases him out, and then Zero Hour confronts him, and then Callus has to escape, and that's when we meet him in season 4 as Hot Callus with the long hair and the chops and everything. So new character model and everything was very cool. So
Noise.
Callus is a fun character. I'm glad we did our Callus watch along 2 weeks ago. That was a blast. I would love to do
So
more
fun.
Callus specific episodes. But yeah, I think he's a great example of just one person being able to like change your mind through small actions. I like it's that's how you change heart and minds. It's like at an individual level. It's not like big propaganda campaigns.
Now, do you feel if Callus had gone with the Ghost crew, like Zeb said, my people will treat you fairly? Do you think if he had gone with the Ghost crew that he would have kind of learned as much about how they viewed him and how disposable he was? Like, if they obviously didn't care if he lived or died on Geonosis, do you think it would have mattered to him if they defected? I know he's an ISB agent. It's the whole like realm of secrets and imperial servitude and stuff that you have to worry about, like guarding the secrets. So it might have, answering my own question here, but I think it might have painted an even bigger target on the rebels if he had gone with them and not kind of found his own way.
If the Empire didn't know that he went with the rebels,
right?
Like you have to wonder if they would have, if they assumed he died, they would have just carried on. They would have been like, oh, well, we lost another one. Even though he was ISB and even though he was high ranking, it didn't matter. Like, unless you lose someone like a Thrawn or a Price, and even then, like, they never went back to Lothal after Price was killed, or like that whole stuff went to hell, right? And part of it is that Luke pops into the picture, like almost immediately following. Like Rogue One happens, A New Hope happens, bam, all eyes off Lothal and onto the real crisis, right? But
we're going to Tatooine.
Right, we got to chase down Luke Skywalker and someone who blew up my Death Star. Like that's a whole other problem. But like they never went back to Lothal to even just like punish the people for killing Governor Price, and she is a governor, like super high ranking, right?
Right. And the disappearance of Thrawn, like
you should have blown up that planet. That should have been target 1 with the Death Star. Test it out there. Like it's the kind of thing where like if I were there, like if I were in the Empire, like the vindictive side of me would have been like, oh, I know what's coming. But they never did, and so that's the kind of thing where it's like that. I really don't think that, one, Callus would have never known that no one cared about him because there would have been no action whatsoever. So it would actually worked out better for him that he saw how bad it went when he got back onto the ship and was like, no one cares that he was missing. If he
You're
was
not
just
a hero, you almost froze to death. Your leg is broken.
Yeah, it's like you dumbass.
Here's your
like
lame empty room that you have to sleep on with no blankets,
all by himself.
Your clothes.
Then, it felt very cold and lonely, the way the Empire is, and it's not the Ghost. And then he found a family with the Ghost, which that's a big deal. I actually think it's like a great microcosm of what the show is about, when you really choose the way you're going to live your life and then the benefits that come with that versus like the fear that he was living in before and serving the Empire. He was doing all the wrong things, and he certainly wasn't being celebrated for it at all. He was seen as highly disposable, which is crazy because he was so critical to everything happening throughout the series as a villain.
Yeah, it was a big lesson he had to learn.
Yeah,
and also I think the rebels had to learn it as well. Be like, okay, this guy is willing to sacrifice everything for a reason.
Yeah,
because he realized he was on the wrong side of things.
Yeah, great character. He's one of the big wins for sure. All right, take us through the next moment. One of my favorites.
Saw Gerrera has showdown with Mon Mothma in the name of the rebellion. So basically, Saw Gerrera hacks a little droid and makes an appearance on Yavin 4, where he continues to chastise Mon Mothma for how she handles the rebellion and how botched it's been, because she's trying to do it diplomatically and she's not out there throwing thermal detonators at everything and just trying to cause as much chaos as possible. And they come to blows with that because it shows it leads to the question, what kind of war do you want to fight? Do you want it to be one where you're playing by their rules and they can easily cut you off at the pass, or do you want to be unpredictable and start winning the rebellion the right way
Yeah.
and not caring about how it enacts, how it acts in warfare, and Star Wars version of the Geneva Convention, just, playing by the
Does not
rules,
exist.
does
Yeah.
not
Anakin
exist.
breaks it all the time. It's fine.
Yeah. And it also leads Hera and Ezra to kind of question where they stand on how they want to fight the rebellion. So it's in a
Yeah.
very, very important divide between different factions of the rebellion. And
Mhm.
you just think of the rebellion as like one big thing. You don't realize that there are many different players in this game and there are many different ways that they view this stuff.
Yeah. And
it leads them to ask questions.
Yeah. So in order for us to be able to sit in the conference room on Yavin and have a fleet of X-Wings under a squadron color to take on the Death Star, we have to get to this point. It's a bottoms-up movement, right? Like we've got extremists like Saw Gerrera, we've got politicians like Mon Mothma, we've got espionage people like Cassian Andor, we've got the fulcrums like Bale and Leia and everyone else. They're all working together, but there is no top down. There is no emperor. There is no of the rebel side, right? Like everyone's figuring it out and they're all sort of vying for leadership, but they're not necessarily vying to be the next emperor. They're trying to figure out how do we get all the water to rise together. And any bottom-up movement in history is always marred with these internal conflicts, right? Like what is the right way about going things? What are the things we're going to prioritize? Like what are our policy decisions that we care about most? In the eyes of Saw Gerrera, it's like crushing the empire. I was like, that's not necessarily a policy decision. What are you going to do? Like arrest every single member of the military? Like you're going to overthrow the entire government? Like what is the actual action plan here? And Mon Mothma's is more like, we need to figure out how we stop wars from happening, like through policy, right? Like her big thing was she came out swinging against the emperor because of civilian casualties in an airstrike or something. Like it's very Clone Wars actually, and very like prequels. Like it's warfare gone amok that she's railing against from the walls of the Senate. So I love everything about this because it feels so real and grounded. Like you see people fight like this in our own Senate, in our own Congress, even people on the same side. Like, do we care about this particular issue? You can use tax policy, right? And it's like, do we believe in a graduated income tax? A lot of states don't have income tax. A lot of states have consumption taxes. Like you can get into whole conversations about like what's best for economic policy and how do we fund our schools through taxes. Sounds great until you find out that like it's highly inequitable. And then a lot of people are paying for a thing that they don't use. And like, is that fair? I mean, you can have all those discussions and disagree violently about it while still aligning to the same goals of we want everyone educated and everyone housed and everyone this, right? Like, I love this about that because it's so accurate.
Yeah.
Like, the way like you
especially nowadays. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Do we riot in the streets? And by riot, I mean like protest, right? Do we protest? When it turns to violence, have you lost the plot? Right. But at some point it's like voting's not enough if the votes are not counted, or if there's corruption in other places, if the laws are unjust. You know, we've seen it all the time. Slavery was legal. Doesn't mean it was right. So by breaking the law, like the Underground Railroad was illegal, but that was obviously the right thing to do. So how do you go about these things? Like sometimes violence is the answer. It's not a popular thing to say out loud. But like Saw Gerrera is often right. Mon Mothma is often right. And that's what makes it great. They're both right. They're both wrong. It's awesome.
Absolutely. And you have to change the policy to make sure the wars never happen again. But you also have to realize that the other side isn't going to play by the rules either.
Yeah.
So sometimes breaking the rules is a little better.
Yeah.
So
and it leads
there's no
to
wrong
another
answer.
You're right. There's definitely no wrong way about it. And I think if you can balance each other out, like there's like I actually left one off the list that you and I you specifically texted me about this one too. Saw Gerrera blowing up the Kyber crystal in the episodes we watched a couple weeks ago is a big moment because like the Empire was gathering Kyber crystals obviously to feed the super weapon, right? We know it's a Death Star. The crew, the Ghost, Saw, no one knows what this is except that they're trying to weaponize a Kyber crystal.
Right.
him blowing that up and like setting back whatever the time frame was, there could have been a Death Star much sooner, and maybe then it would have targeted Lothal.
Yeah,
Like, at that
absolutely.
point.
And I think the major point of rebellion was Lothal, so it could have.
Yeah.
But also Ezra was kind of like concerned because it's like this is an important piece of the Jedi. This is how the Jedi forge their weapons. This is an imperative
we make
tool
our
to the
lightsabers
Force.
out of this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge in the Force, and not just the light side and the dark side, but the Force in general operates through this item. And he's kind of conflicted. He's like, we can't blow it up. It's unstable, and it's not really ours to blow up. It belongs to
to the Force almost.
Yeah.
And also, he doesn't know from Ilum. Like, he's never heard that word. He doesn't know that planet. Like, Yoda never said anything. Look, Yoda like materialized his crystal out of nothing from the Jedi Temple, which we're gonna let slide. We're just gonna like Jedi mind trick that away and be like, that's fine. Not okay. But like, truly, if we were gonna dive into it, but like, where else would he get his crystal from? Like, there's no going to Ilum. And at this point, we already know that Jedda's been mined for Kyber crystal. Ilum becomes Starkiller base, right? So Ilum dies between let's call it Revenge of the Sith and The Force Awakens. That's a long time frame, but it's probably during the time of Rebels. Like, Ilum is probably already gone at this point. Who knows? Maybe we'll see Ilum in Andor. Like, I think that would be another interesting little bit. Like,
we've seen Jeddah. It's just as important, and it's Kyber rich, and I think we could see them pulling out that Kyber crystal. Like, that'd be
super cool,
super rad.
I would love that. It would also be heartbreaking. I mean, I know I also think too, like, we see things in like Battlefront, right? When Cal Kestis goes to Ilum. So we've seen it in these places now, and I was like, why would you do it there if you're not going to also do it somewhere else where there's a slightly wider audience? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's coming. I feel like they're going to show us Ilum.
It always goes full circle. I trust in them. Nothing is ever really gone.
yeah, there it is. And that's on all the other posters. All right, I'm going to jump into our number 3, and we touched on this slightly before. Commander Sato. His sacrifice in 0 Hour is a big moment for the rebellion. And also, Commander Sato in general is just an important part of the rebellion that I also could see him appearing in Andor as a character, even if it's not in a big way. I think Commander Sato is someone who he's in like several episodes. He really creates our first connectivity point from like the Ghost crew to the larger structure of the rebellion. And again, it really isn't fully structured. Like, there's no emperor. Like, there is no top-down hierarchy that's been created, but we understand that Commander Sato has a starship. He has a crew under him. He treats it like a military. Hera is like sort of absorbed into that cell as a part of it, works with him really well and effectively. There's not that much conflict other than Kanan not wanting to be part of a military. Again, like Jedi being in the Clone Wars, right? You could see like his apprehension there.
Not weaponize my beliefs.
Exactly. But like he's a really important figure and really gets the crew through seasons 2 and 3 safely and helps build this larger rebellion. And in the final moments of season 3 and 0 Hour, when Thrawn is like honing in on Chopper Base, Commander Sato saves the day. Like, he breaks through the barricade, pulling away Constantine, that idiot, killing Constantine and everyone on that ship, pulling essentially like a Holdo maneuver and crashing right into it, just him, and going down with the ship. It was really sad, but also felt really earned too, because like we had gotten to know him for the past 2 seasons, and his sacrifice felt really meaningful, not just like a throwaway moment.
Right. And having his surviving relative, his nephew, to be a part of rebellion, I think that kind of also spurred Mart into taking his role a little more seriously and not being like, hey, we're a bunch of pilots, we're just having fun in space.
Just having fun. Can't have fun in space during the reign of the Empire.
No, you cannot.
Yeah, he was very inspirational. I feel like Commander Sato sometimes gets overlooked in his contributions to the wider rebellion and just how influential he was. And you're right, he leaves behind Mart as his like next of kin, essentially. And then everyone else he worked with throughout seasons 2 and 3. Like, he's not quite on like the Bail Organa level of like importance, but like he's one rung below for sure. Like Hera like worked with him pretty intensely, and I would say like her military skills, aside from her individual piloting skills, which she obviously honed herself, can probably be attributed to studying under him during seasons
Yeah,
2 and 3. Like the reason she's a general in this military reporting under Mon Mothma and everyone, like it's probably from a lot of the training she got working so closely with Commander Sato.
absolutely. And I think that's what also leads Mart to trust her as a commander
Yeah.
and as a leader. And it gives him a little more attachment to the Ghost Crew because it's like, okay, my uncle trusted these guys. He
Yeah.
trusted them to save me. Now I'm going to trust them to help lead us away from the Empire.
Yeah. It's nice to see his legacy continue, especially as Lithal gets freed and Mark's like a big part of it. It's cool. All right, tell us number two. Number two is a twofer, actually.
Yeah, so number 2 is Bale saving the day in the fire across the galaxy and the revelation that the ghost is part of a larger cell. Um, Bale comes charging to the rescue with the latest fulcrum, Ahsoka Tano, who is the first time we see her since Clone Wars, since she leaves the Jedi Order. And it's a huge reveal. It's amazing. Like,
Yeah. That's the
punches us
Ahsoka
all in
lives
the
moment.
feels. Ahsoka lives. Yes.
Hashtag Ahsoka lives was such a moment on Twitter. It actually
Oh, it
spoiled quite
was.
a bit because like West Coast saw the hashtag trend before the episode, 3 hours before the
Oh,
episode
yeah.
aired.
That was a
Um,
huge deal.
yeah, I remember that
Sorry.
because I actually went back and looked because I had like a Facebook post and I live tweeted like because I was a licensee and to celebrate the finale, I was like, okay, that's when I gave away like trading cards from the Rebel set. But like I remember staying home that Friday night to do the Friday night tweet along and the West Coast as well. Like it was like appointment television, the thing I was railing against last week about how I want appointment television for us to all tune in together.
We do, just at 3 a.m.
I'm not me. If I'm out at 3 a.m., it's at a club. And like I can't sit on the couch. If I'm on the couch, I'm asleep at 10:30. Like that's the problem. It's one or the other. So
Yeah.
this moment, obviously, I think if a lot of people are going to talk about top moments just of Rebels in general, the season 1 finale, Fire Across the Galaxy, is just filled with them. You know, the death of the Grand Inquisitor is huge. Kanan thinking that Ezra's dead for a second and then going crazy is awesome. Rescuing
Yeah.
Kanan is terrific. Bale showing up, Chopper actually leading the charge to bring Bale
Yes.
in to save the
It was
day.
so cool.
Amazing. And then the reveal of Ahsoka, the reveal of Bale, and then the reveal of Ahsoka. It's like such a 1-2 punch,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh man, like where is season 2 gonna take us? And then you see where it leads, and it's like, what an excellent story arc to kick off in that
Yeah.
finale, to leave us wanting more, to
We
bring
get,
in older fans. Yeah.
yeah, we get Gregor, we get Wolf, we
Mhm.
get Rex.
Rex.
We get
Yep.
so many important
Darth
characters.
Vader,
Darth Vader
the new
into like
Inquisitors. Yeah, it's like unbelievable.
just the gateway into the awesomeness. It's just
Yeah.
it's
I'm
everything that you kind of want to happen in your character. Like, okay, this is going to tie into Clone Wars in this way, but this is also going to tie into the OT and the prequels in this way. And it's so smart and so well done.
yeah,
Love
it
it.
is. It is a really fantastic season finale, and a great moment in Star Wars Rebels, and then a huge moment for building this rebellion. You know, as we think about the major players in the Rebel Alliance, the people who are in the Clone Wars working behind the scenes, again, it's always Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, Padme, and then they had some other hangers on, Bai Ling, you know, and from the deleted scene, and a few other like minor players. Bale and Ahsoka, you know, Ahsoka becoming such a big part of this. You know, we know from the book she was a fulcrum. She was the
Yeah.
fulcrum of all of season 1 without us knowing it. You know, it was her voice
It's so
modulated.
cool to hear Ashley.
Yeah,
Like if you know it's Ahsoka, like now you go back and you hear how they modulated
yeah,
Ashley's voice.
the
Like David's is a little
cadence.
more recognizable.
Yeah,
Oh, it's really cool.
the cadence is what it is, right? It's the way that Ahsoka would say it. She has such a flow about her that's very obviously Ahsoka. So yeah, this was such a moment, and really like as I think about who's really important within the rebellion, Bale always like jumps to the top. Ahsoka always jumps to the top. This this is that. And I expect fully that we're going to see Bail Organa in Andor. And I don't know if they're going to give us Ahsoka. I don't think they will. I think they're going to save it for the Ahsoka show. But there's no telling. Like we could get an audio clip. We talked about this with David Oyelowo, right? Like we might not see Callus, but we might hear his audio. Yeah, I think that'd be cool. All right.
So
we are now at our number one moment, you guys. Thank you everyone again for like joining us on this Labor Day Monday.
Yes.
To talk the building of the rebellion. This has been really fun. We've got one moment left, and believe me, there are more. Like if you watch Rebels, there are probably things we left off the list. So we'd love to hear from you guys.
If we did, tell us. Join me in the comments. Let me know what you think.
Join Ashley in the comments. I won't be there. No.
He's gonna go have fun. I will be here packing. So
Ashley's making a big move to Massachusetts. So you're packing up the house. I am just going to the beach for the weekend.
So jealous.
I need something to just like relax. Too many things are going on. I'm sure you feel the same way. Once you're settled, we'll get together.
Absolutely.
But the Labor Day, as the Labor Day weekend comes to an end, our listicle is also coming to an end. Andor August is over, but we're in the and then some time period, and we're mere weeks away from the premiere Andor. So I think for anyone who's a fan of me and my views on Rebels, you probably know what I think is the number one moment in all of building the rebellion within Star Wars Rebels. We watched this episode a few weeks ago.
Mark Mothma.
Mark Mothma. In the episode Secret Cargo, which is all about Mon Mothma, we actually get the speech that makes her the galaxy's most wanted, the number one traitor, the woman who dared to defy the Emperor and put him on blast and call out his crimes, and resigns from the Senate. She resigns from the Senate and basically says that she will fight the Emperor. And it's like sort of a public declaration that there is a rebellion, even though there's also been secretly a rebellion building behind the scenes and through espionage and everything else. So I'm going to read you the speech. We did it last time, but I'll do it one more time to close out the list. So this is Senator Mon Mothma. I have been called a traitor for speaking out against a corrupt galactic Senate, a Senate manipulated by the sinister tactics of the Emperor. For too long, I have watched the heavy hand of the Empire strangle our liberties, stifling our freedoms in the name of ensuring our safety. No longer. Despite Imperial threats, despite the Emperor himself, I have no fear as I take new action, for I am not alone. Beginning today, we stand together as allies. I hereby resign from the Senate to fight for you, not from the distant halls of politics, but from the front lines. We will not rest until we bring an end to the Empire, until we restore our republic. Are you with me? It's very inspiring. It's very to the point, too. It's a pretty short speech, barely a speech, more of like, all right, I'm out.
A declaration of acknowledgement of war. And it was huge, because up until that point, it's always been like, oh, there's the Empire and there's the rebellion, but you don't see someone who's so ingrained in the Senate and for all intents and purposes, the Empire, just go, I'm doing this. I will, to go up against the Empire is one thing, but to go up against the Emperor is like direct war on it. No help. Like, she's either incredibly brave or incredibly dumb. And it's just, obviously we know she's incredibly brave, but it's never been, aside from like Padme just kind of calling Chancellor Palpatine out on some shady things, there's never been an open declaration against the Empire like this before.
This is a big deal. And again, like we talked about Mon Mothma in our Mon Mothma Appreciation Monday a few weeks ago, everything that she brings to the saga, from 90 seconds in Return of the Jedi to then being a major player. She is the second build character within the Andor show. So we're going to see a lot of Genevieve, a lot of Mon Mothma. We're going to see how we get to this point. How do we get to this point?
In action.
Where this woman, who is a really respected senator and could have just like kept her mouth shut and just just played along, right? Could have been rich, could have been like no one would have bothered her. She could have just lived her life all to herself, individualistic, right? Or she can lose it all, risk it all, put her life on the line for a greater cause. And I think that is the story of Star Wars right there. Like, are you willing to put your own, put the needs of other people ahead of your own? And Rebels does that almost better than anything else in the saga. Hera says that early on in season 1, like you have to take care of other people, especially those who can't help themselves.
Absolutely. And I feel like this is where it separates. Okay, it's more than just the rebellion versus empire. It's like, how much can you live with as far as like humanitarian loss
Yeah.
and histories of entire populations of a planet lost forever? How much absolute devastation and humanitarian effort could you stand to live with? It's more than just
Mm,
right versus wrong. It's about saving people and
yeah.
making a difference in as many lives as possible.
There's so many potential triggering events. Like I think about what we saw in Bad Batch with like Camino getting blown up. Like
Yeah.
someone has to find out about that. There can't be
Yeah.
like 1,000 people on those ships and every single one of them like keep their mouth shut. Like someone's either going to get captured and tortured through Saw and like give away what happened, or someone's going to actually have a conscience and be like, oh damn, I got to go tell someone we like exterminated a planet. Like, we saw Finn defect from the stormtroopers, which by the way, I think is a thread that didn't get fully explored well enough in the sequel trilogy. I wanted more
Yeah.
of that. Like I think him meeting Naomi Aki and the other stormtroopers who defected, it's such an interesting idea and
It would
could
have been
have
such a
been.
great opportunity.
Yeah, I wanted more of that because I love a defector. I think Bodhi is the best defector we've seen in the movies. In the cartoon, I think we've got plenty, but I think Hot Callus might win the day, unless you
Yes.
count Sabine. But Sabine was always on our side from as long as we knew her. We didn't know her as an Imperial first.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I love that idea. And Mon Mothma is a defector. She defects from the Empire. She was part of their government, whether she wanted to be or not. She was sort of unwilling in the beginning, right? She was part of the Republic, which then became the Empire. But she defects and then leads the rebellion. So it is super impressive. And I want to see that play out. I want to see these events get her there and see what she's doing behind the scenes. Because you're right, she's playing chess.
Yeah, and I think I don't want to say he's a pawn, but I think Andor and his willingness to just make the empire suffer for what his people have dealt with, and anything that pulls him into the fight from the age of 6 on and willing to
Yeah.
sacrifice his life to stop the empire. I think they're both beneficial to each other, and I think we'll see it in
Yeah.
Andor.
I definitely want to see them hang out because they obviously know each other. We know that from Rogue One. We have to
Yeah.
see them meet 6 years old. I mean, we're gonna do a prediction show. Obviously he's gonna have dead parents too. Who are we kidding? Like just add it to the list.
We'll just add it to the orphan list.
Jesus, no,
Top 10
it's
favorite Star Wars orphans.
who's her favorite orphans? Oh, it's everyone. It's every character we've ever met. There's going to be a lot of that. I will say, I think Rebels gives us a good mix of like family types, right? Like Sabine is sort of like
Sabine's parents being alive. It's just like,
yeah.
whoa,
It's just
okay,
that
somebody
they
has parents.
excommunicated her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hera's parents are, I guess their dad's alive. Is the mom still
Mom,
alive?
no.
Yeah, the dad was alive, but yeah, the mom wasn't. Zeb's whole family, we don't know about his parents specifically, but it seems that most of his species are not around, and then we find out some of them are left.
Yes.
And then obviously Kanan was taken from his parents as a baby because the Jedi are a cult. That could be a whole other show. And then Ezra's parents are dead. So
Yes.
it is a wild mix of
And then
all
Jason
slices of life.
Syndulla, his father is dead. So it's like,
Yeah, like, oh God.
stop it.
I know, it's killing me. Yeah, we don't know, and we'll never learn about the Imperials because like they don't do family, is what it seems, right? Like I don't know about Callus, but you'll never know if he had parents or not.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, I think that we covered a lot in
We
this
did.
listicle of like if you've never watched Star Wars Rebels and you are for some reason watching us talk about Star Wars Rebels, it seems like there's a lot of potential connectivity to Andor. Which we're really excited about. I see Rebels like being so closely connected to Rogue One and like building this rebellion. There's just so much groundwork that's been laid during these 4 seasons that are then leading into the Andor show. And we know that's going to go for at least 2 seasons. So I think there's going to be a lot.
24 episodes. That's huge.
It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to like have long form content. That we can talk about for weeks and weeks, as opposed to these like 6-episode, like this the thing that was a movie that they obviously just stretched into a TV show.
Well, I read somewhere that they wanted it to be and I think Tony Gilroy mentioned this, the showrunner. He wanted it to be over like 5 years, like that time frame before Rogue One, but obviously like every season is taken like due to like maybe pandemic reasons taken 2 years to make, and it'd be
Oof.
like 8 years for 4 seasons. And he goes, well, Cassian would be like 100, and it kind of wouldn't line up properly with the time frame of Rogue One.
Yeah.
So
They
um
already look older than they did in Rogue One because that movie
right,
was 6 years ago, and there's only so much makeup can do. Oh,
absolutely,
that's just true. I mean, like
yeah,
that. Look, but I'm gonna suspend disbelief. Like Diego
oh
Luna is
yeah,
still Diego Luna. We're gonna give him a different haircut and a different coat. Fine. Like, great. He's five
totally
years
fine.
younger. You got it. Yep. Like, fine by me. And like, also, like HD makeup's great. So it's
They
fine.
did it with Harrison Ford in Indy 5, so it can happen again.
I saw that photo. I don't know what to think about that. Like,
I don't
aside
either.
from the fact that that's crazy, that can't work in video. It may
Yeah,
work in a photo, but
yeah.
that doesn't sustain in video. Or how much are you spending on this VFX budget? Because I'm watching She-Hulk right now. Like, by the way, I love that show. I don't want to
Me
say anything bad about
too.
She-Hulk. I actually think it's
Yes.
insane how silly the graphics look, and I think it's intentional. I think that people are forgetting that
It's
She-Hulk
a
is a
comic book
comedy.
show
It's a
and
comedy
it's
also. Like,
fun.
her comic book was always a comedy, and it was supposed to be a self-aware comedy about misogyny. And what's funny is it's funny. What's sad is like it's getting misogynistic hate. And I was like, oh my God, like can no one follow like what's supposed to be happening right now?
Didn't no one read the comics? And you know what?
No, of course they didn't.
It's yeah, because even if they did, it'd give them something new to complain about. So
Yeah.
it's like
Oh, makes me so angry.
they can review bomb it all they want. I love it. I'm going to watch it.
Same. I
I
think it's great.
really think that Marvel knows their target audience and knows what the ratings are rather than the people
Yeah.
trashing it online. So
And that's fine. And like, honestly, like there's no such thing as bad press. If people are going to talk about how they don't like the CGI, someone's going to tune in to see it and be like, "Oh, the show's fun."
yeah,
Like that's it.
exactly.
That's it. Can the show just be fun? Sometimes it could just be fun.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't think Andor is going to be high on the fun factor per se. I think it's going to be serious as a heart attack. So I'm preparing
Yes.
myself that there will be no laughs. I also think there'll be no lightsabers. I think there'll be no talk of the Force. I think this is like full on military espionage. I think it's going to be heartbreaking. I think we're going to see Cassian's parents die, like on screen. It's going to be traumatizing. Like, I think they're going to give us a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's the part I'm kind of like not looking forward to, but it's
Yeah.
I would like to see when he meets K2 and how he meets K2. Um, Obviously their dynamic duo,
Yeah.
like the
Season
Hera
2,
and
I think,
Chopper.
right? Like,
That's what I hear. Alan Tudyk said he wasn't involved in season 1, so it's entirely possible.
yeah. Cats are
Kitty
going
cats
crazy
go
now.
crazy. Oh
Yeah.
my
And I was like, I don't know
goodness.
what's happening over there.
They're
They're
celebrating Labor Day.
exactly. They're riled up. Long weekend. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it is Labor Day. We hope everyone is having a great holiday. Hope everyone had a nice long weekend. Thank you again for spending some time with us on we love our Mondays with you
We
guys.
love you guys. Yeah.
It's so fun for us to just as we have our, work and everything else going on to know on a Monday night that we're just gonna come and hang with the community and chat with everyone on like what we love about Rebels. So this was really fun because we did a lot of rewatch to make this list. A lot of
Yes, but you know
incremental
what?
viewing behind the scenes.
It is totally worth it because any excuses to watch Rebels are not bad
Yeah.
excuses to
My
watch
husband was
Rebels.
like, what are you doing? You've seen this show how many times? And I was like, I'm double checking lists. So and then hours later, like, I was like, what episode am I on? That's what ends up
I got
happening.
sucked into like 5 in a row. It's over.
That's the thing. Once you're watching one, you're watching seven, is what I joke. So
Yeah, that's why I'm on my fourth
yeah.
rewatch of The Sandman. So
I need to rewatch Sandman. I hear that it needs extra views to like confirm season 2. So I'm all in on Sandman. I thought it was spectacular.
yay.
Um,
I am
with
literally yelling at my coworkers, friends, anybody who will listen. Please watch The Sandman. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm gonna do another rewatch or rewatch. So my second viewing.
Nice.
And you guys, thank you for coming to watch us.
Yeah, we
Join
appreciate you.
join us next Monday, September 12th, for our Wedge Antilles watch along. We're going to watch season 3, episode 4, The Antilles Extraction, which is where we first meet Wedge and we rescue him from the Imperial Academy. And then season 3, episode 19, Double Agent Droid, which is a killer AP5 episode, but also secretly an amazing Wedge Antilles episode, including, I forgot, like a bathroom scene, which is like so random. I rewatched it again. I was like, what? I completely forgot that there's a refresher situation. I was like, this
it's
is
probably
so
one of the first we've seen in Star Wars up until that point. Yeah.
There's a whole thing about like plumbing in general is not really a thing in Star Wars. Like they very rarely run water. Obviously, like Luke lived on a moisture farm, but that's like a whole farming apparatus. But like running water and like plumbing in general is just like very rarely seen in Star Wars. Like infrastructure is like weirdly underused on screen. And I don't know why that is. I guess just it's so mundane. But like I love to see how that stuff kind of functions.
Because it's just stuff you don't think about when it comes to like Empire versus Rebellion. Just like
well, someone's got to be washing dishes somewhere. Like that's the kind of thing where it's like I got to wash my hands. We see Callus wash his hands in the bathroom with a refresher in the through Imperial Eyes, and I was like, oh, running water, how exciting! Because you never see it. Never see it. But I think everyone's dehydrated in Star Wars. That's my new sneaking suspicion. They all
that's
get
what those pellets are for. Those Jedi pellets.
Like exactly. Like water. Cats, they don't really drink water. Sometimes they get their nutrients from their food, right? I think there could be that. That's going to be a whole other like. We're going to bring on someone to talk about like engineering and plumbing and like hydration in Star Wars. It's going to be a whole thing. You know that there's an expert out there. I'm saying this, and you already know there are YouTube videos for days on this exact topic, I'm sure.
Yeah. Pablo literally broadcast into the refreshers in Galaxy's Edge. So Pablo Hidalgo.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
That was so fun.
We will not be talking, we will be talking plumbing in season 3, episode 19, Double Agent Droid next week. I'm sure we'll talk about running water and everything else. But this is going to be a really fun one for all you Wedge fans out there, for all you OT fans. And then Monday the 19th, just as a reminder, is our Andor prediction show, which we've been sprinkling in our predictions throughout like our current watch-alongs, but we're gonna do a full-on like bring your crazy theories. I've got some nutty ones that I have not announced publicly yet because I'm still like fine-tuning them, but I've got some wild stuff that I want to throw predictions out now, and I think they're low probability, but like I think they could be really fun. Some really obscure characters that I've like identified that I think may like swoop in. I love that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, if it happens, you can be like, I went crazy and said that, and look what happened.
Yeah, so, or they'll be like, oh, as a licensee, you probably knew something, you're fired. Like, it'll be one of those. Like, by the way, I know nothing. They've told me nothing about this show. I've seen the same trailers you guys have. And then Monday the 26th will be our recap show. Also, I forgot to mention last week, the VCN is still deep in coverage with all things Andor August and then some. The boys are on every Thursday night, the trio. They're doing their watch-alongs. They just did a Bad Batch episode last week. And I think this week, I don't remember whether it's not Rogue One already. I think we still have some time for that. But they have something coming up on Thursday.
Yes. And between that and the Cantina Zoom meeting on Tuesday nights and the Unifying Force every Sunday, these guys are definitely running the gamut, getting into the Star Wars and preparing you for Andor August and then some. Yeah,
a lot to get ready for. And this Sunday coming up, I think, is another Unifying Force. They just did Jedi Archives. It switches every other week. Jedi Archives or Unifying Force. Unifying Force did an episode 2 weeks ago on the Rogue One in-depth discussion. So if you want to get ready for Andor, like Rogue One is obviously the most important thing to watch. It's also on IMAX right now, which I think was the point of them doing it last weekend to align with the IMAX viewing. If you can go see it in IMAX, there's also like a tag that's happening at the end with like scenes and something, some extra content from Andor.
Talking with executive producers and just getting into an extended like 10-minute clip from the show. So it'll be here. It was closer to here.
I know. I was gonna say, it's like I'm in New York and I still haven't gone, and I keep saying I'm gonna go, and who knows? Maybe next weekend. We'll see. We'll see how long it plays. But I'm looking forward to Andor, and I would love to see. I would love to get into a theater to see a Star Wars, though. That's the one thing that I think I'm like a little bit missing is like I like the Star Wars theater experience. Even though
so far it's grossed like $1 million in IMAX. It's like the biggest IMAX movie this year. Like,
easy.
Yeah.
It's playing on no screens anywhere, and it still made $1 million. It's like unreal.
Yeah, the power of Star
There's no
Wars,
there's
man.
no stopping Star Wars.
Mm-mm.
It'll outlive all of us, like I say.
Yes.
Okay, well, with that in mind, we're gonna wish all of you guys a happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day,
Labor
guys.
Day, or happy start to your Andor September. And
Yes.
join us next Monday, September 12th, for the Wedge Antilles watch along here on Star Wars Rebels Revisited.
Yes. So make sure you queue up your Disney Plus and join us. Thank you so much for getting in the chats and spending your holiday with us. And we will catch you guys next week.
Okay. Bye,
May the
everyone. May the
force be
force
with
be with
you.
you.